There's a guy in every neighborhood who spends his Saturday morning lying under a car instead of sleeping in. His hands are covered in grease, his knuckles are scraped, and he hasn't said a word to anyone in 2 hours because he's too focused listening to a sound only he can hear. Everyone assumes he's just being cheap, trying to save a few bucks on labor costs. But if you actually talk to him, if you actually sit down and ask him why he's doing this, instead of just driving to a shop and paying someone else to deal with it, you'll find out the real reason has almost nothing to do with money. It's about control. In a world where so much feels like it's happening to us instead of because of us, a car is one of the last machines a regular person can actually understand from top to bottom. You can open the hood, trace every wire, follow every hose, and know exactly why something works or why it stopped working. There's no algorithm hiding the truth from you, no customer service line giving you a scripted answer. Just you, a wrench, and a problem that has a definite, physical, solvable answer. And that feeling, being able to solve something with your own 2 hands in a world full of invisible systems you can't touch or fix, that feeling is addictive. Think about how much of modern life feels out of our hands. You can't fix your own phone. You can't fix your own internet connection when it goes down. You can't even really understand half the software running your own life. But a car engine? That's different. That's a puzzle you can actually finish. Every bolt has a reason. Every part has a function. And when you finally figure out what's wrong and fix it yourself, there's a kind of satisfaction that just doesn't exist anywhere else in daily life. It's primal. It's the same feeling our grandfathers felt, and their grandfathers before them. Going all the way back to a time when knowing how to work with your hands wasn't a hobby, it was survival. And that's actually where a lot of this comes from. Go back 2 or 3 generations, and almost every man had to know at least a little bit about machines. Not because they loved it necessarily, but because you had no choice. If your car broke down on a dirt road 40 miles from the nearest town, there was no roadside assistance app to call. You either knew how to fix it, or you were stuck. That kind of necessity built a whole culture around mechanical knowledge. Fathers taught sons, neighbors taught neighbors. It wasn't seen as impressive, it was just seen as basic competence, the same way knowing how to cook a meal or fix a leaky faucet was basic competence. But somewhere along the way, that skill became rare. Cars got more complicated, computers took over half the functions under the hood. And dealerships convinced people that only trained specialists with expensive diagnostic tools could touch these machines. And for a lot of repairs today, that's actually true. But here's the part nobody talks about. A huge percentage of what goes wrong with a car, the basic stuff, the oil changes, the brake pads, the spark plugs, the batteries, none of that requires a computer science degree. It requires patience, a few tools, and the willingness to get your hands dirty. And the men who still do this themselves aren't stuck in the past. They're holding on to something that a lot of people gave up on without even realizing what they were losing. Because here's the truth nobody says out loud. Working on your own car isn't really about the car. It's about identity. It's about being someone who doesn't need to depend on other people for everything. There's a certain quiet confidence that comes from knowing you could handle a problem yourself if you had to, even if you don't do it every single time, even if sometimes you do take it to a shop because you're busy or the job is too big. Just knowing you understand the machine you're driving every single day gives you a different relationship with it. It stops being this mysterious box you trust blindly and becomes something you actually respect because you know what's happening inside it. And then there's the trust issue, which honestly might be the biggest reason of all. Most people who work on their own cars started doing it because they got burned. They took their car to a shop expecting an honest fix, and instead they got an inflated bill for a part that didn't even need replacing. Maybe they got charged for labor on something that took 10 minutes. Maybe they were told their brakes were dangerously worn when they had 50% life left. It happens more than people admit, and once it happens to you, it changes something. You stop trusting blindly. You start asking questions. And eventually, you realize the easiest way to never get taken advantage of again is to learn how to check things yourself. That doesn't mean every mechanic is dishonest, because plenty of them are incredibly skilled and fair. And there are absolutely repairs that need a professional with real expertise and the right equipment. But once someone starts learning the basics, once they realize they can watch a 10-minute video and swap their own air filter or change their own oil, something shifts in how they see the whole system. They stop being a passive customer and start being an informed one. And that shift in power, even in something as small as an oil change, feels incredibly good. It feels like waking up a little. There's also something deeper happening here that has almost nothing to do with cars specifically. It's about slowing down. In a world where everything moves at the speed of a notification, spending 3 hours in a garage focused entirely on one mechanical problem is one of the only times some men get real, uninterrupted focus. No emails, no scrolling, no noise. Just a task in front of you that demands your full attention, one bolt at a time. Psychologists actually talk about this kind of state. When your hands are busy and your mind has to concentrate on something physical and immediate, as one of the few reliable ways to actually quiet an overactive brain. It's basically meditation, except instead of sitting still, you're replacing a water pump. And it's not just relaxing, it's rewarding in a way that almost nothing else in modern life is. Think about how much of what we do all day produces nothing you can actually see or hold. You answer emails, they disappear into an inbox. You attend meetings, they end and leave behind nothing physical. But when you fix a car, when you actually diagnose the problem and repair it with your own hands, you get in, you turn the key, and it starts. That immediate, undeniable proof that your effort worked, that's rare. That's incredibly rare in modern life, and it hits something deep, something almost primal. The same satisfaction a person gets from building something with wood or growing something from a seed. It's proof, real physical proof that you did something and it mattered. Now, here's where it gets interesting, because this isn't just some nostalgic throwback thing anymore. A lot of younger guys are getting into this too, not because their fathers taught them, but because they found it on their own, through videos, through forums, through trial and error in a driveway. And that tells you something important. This isn't dying out. If anything, in a world that feels increasingly digital and disconnected, more people are craving something physical to work with their hands on. Cars just happen to be the most available, most rewarding option, sitting right there in the driveway. But let's be honest about the other side too, because working on your own car isn't always this romantic, peaceful experience. Sometimes it's frustrating beyond belief. Sometimes a bolt is rusted so badly it won't budge no matter what you do. Sometimes you spend 4 hours on a job that should have taken 40 minutes because you didn't have the exact right tool. Sometimes you make a mistake, and something that was working fine before suddenly isn't working at all, and now you've turned a small problem into a much bigger one. Anyone who tells you it's always satisfying is lying to you. There are moments of genuine anger, genuine exhaustion, genuine doubt about whether you should have just paid someone else to deal with it in the first place. And yet, most of the men who go through that frustration keep coming back to it anyway. Because the moments of struggle actually make the moments of success feel even better. There's something about earning the fix, about fighting through the difficulty and finally hearing that engine turn over clean that makes the whole experience worth it, even the painful parts. It's not really about the car being perfect. It's about proving to yourself again and again that you can figure things out. That when something breaks in your life, whether it's mechanical or not, you have the patience and the persistence to work through it instead of giving up or handing it off to someone else. That's really the truth hiding underneath all of this. It was never really about the car. The car is just the excuse. It's the thing that gives a man permission to slow down, focus, struggle, and eventually succeed at something real. It's a reminder that competence still matters, that self-reliance still matters, even in a world that keeps making things easier and more automatic and more disconnected from actual understanding. Every bolt they turn is a small act of independence. Every problem they solve is proof that they haven't lost the ability to take care of themselves, no matter how complicated the world outside the garage gets. So maybe the real question isn't why some men still work on their own cars. Maybe the real question is why more people stopped trying in the first place, and what it would take to get that feeling back for yourself. What's the first thing you'd actually want to learn how to fix on your own car? If this video actually gave you something to think about, that means more to me than any view count ever could.
Keeping this channel going takes real time and real work behind the scenes. And if you want to help me keep making videos like this, you can buy me a coffee using the link in the description or become a member of the channel. Every bit of support, big or small, genuinely helps me keep this thing running.